Hey, peace and blessings. It's your brother Sorry back with another one. Appreciate all the support as usual. Thank you for tuning in. You know what I'm saying? Peace to the true and living. You know what I mean? If you're watching this, you are the true and living. So just wanted to hop on real quick and just, uh, speak on something that, just been kind of popping up recently on my timeline and everything on different things. Um, it's been this okay, so recently it's been an epidemic of HIV that's kind of spread across the nation and everything like that. Um, and you know, I know the normal thing, the logical thing, everybody's like, okay, they're attributing it to the promiscuity in society. And, you know, I'm not saying that that's not a factor in it. You see what I'm saying? Um, but I'm gonna just say this, since we dealing with patterns and all this stuff like this. Um, I would say think of it from this perspective. Now, this is my humble opinion on maybe what may be going on in society right now. Um, was there something that, a large percentage of the population, was there something that a large percentage of the population recently did over the last few years? You think about it. You tell me, was there something that the majority of the population recently took or did over the last, let's say, three or 4 or 5 years or something like that? You see what I'm saying? That may have lasting implications on their health, something that when they that it was a major push to take that. You see what I'm saying? It rhymes with tax. You know what I'm saying? Start with it sound like Velma from Scooby Doo, but it rhymed with tax. You did. So was there something that everybody did, or a large percentage of the population did, um, um, over the last couple of years? You see what I'm saying? And if there was, did that thing have substantial side effects? Or I recall, you go on certain platforms and everything like that back in 2021, something like that, around the time that thingamajig came out and everything like that. And you see, soccer players collapsing on the field and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? Their heart attacks, myocarditis in kids, things of that nature. So that's just a side effect. So and you get seeing people with problems in their nervous system, all manner of side effects, because something that normally takes a 10-year process was done in a much shorter amount of time than that. So that's that. So that's the thing. And if we really kind of flip it on the pattern side of the game, the last time that they did like a mass vaccination type deal. Yeah, you did. Last time they did something like that on a mass scale, that was with smallpox, and it was said to have eradicated smallpox. I think this was like in what, in the 80s or something like that. Um, but on the conspiracy side of the game, that was supposed to had introduced AID into Africa. You see what I'm saying? So this same thing that it potentially caused this time might have been the same thing that the last time they did this on a pattern level, it caused the same, or it was associated with the same issue. Go back and look up the so-called conspiracies about AID and the smallpox vaccine in Africa back in the day. Um, Let me see. Uh, and just looking at a lot of the current events, man, I try to kind of like, kind of skim light on the current events, because I know certain things we can't really say on certain platforms. So I kind of like tread lightly on that. But like on the current event side of the game, man, on the pattern side of the game, man, um, think about it like this. You know, people are gearing up for some sort of, you know, the Third World War or something like that. People are gearing up for that. We're dealing with a lot of issues on the financial side of the game. So from a pattern perspective, normally when there's a so-called world war, it's some sort of financial reset. Last time this happened, we're dealing with the Bretton Woods agreement, and that created the petrodollar, and it created United States dominance and stuff like that. Prior to that, when they had World War One, that created the League of Nations. When you got World War Two, that creates the United Nations, as well as, if I'm not mistaken, the state of Israel, or had a part in that. It had to do with the creation of the state of Israel around that time as well. So yeah, so we gotta always pay attention, because how this mindset that we've been kind of talking about when we say, "Oh man, history repeats itself." Yeah, that's an understatement. That's a super understatement. Um, Honestly, when I view current events and history and stuff like that, I think, astrology in the mindset of like mundane astrology, I think it's bar none one of the best methods or whatever, because you have the luxury of dates, and you can measure cycles and appropriate energy and stuff like that. But let's say if I didn't have any of that, and I'm just eyeballing the themes, you see what I'm saying? Um, you can dissect it in various different ways or what have you. But whenever you're looking at current events and everything like that, always be mindful, that, okay, let's say, always be mindful of patterns on a global level. Don't always be so blind by left right politics. David Icke says this as well. Don't be so blind by left right politics or whatever. You'll lose the plot. And I couldn't agree more. um the pattern is often not in left right politics within a single country. The pattern will often be on a global scale, or whatever case may be. I think an example of that would be, I think Reaganomics in the United States was very similar to Thatcherism in the UK with Margaret Thatcher, if I'm not mistaken. So you'll have matching different policies and stuff like that, or whatever case may be, because it'll be some common agenda that's being pushed or what have you. And a lot of times when we examine even the agendas, or when we research some of the agendas um, that are being pushed in current events and everything like that, and we're not talking about nothing in particular. So, you know what I'm saying? We can't really, we just really talking ambiguously and kind of vaguely. But when we see agendas being pushed in current events and things of that nature, or whatever case may be, it's best that we go back several decades to see the origin of that ideology, where it's coming from, and the end goal of that ideology. So you kind of see where they're trying to take us. So yeah, um, even when we deal with the idea of, let's say, like AI and the rise of AI, and the um, you know, what's gonna happen, with the AI, eventually get smarter than humans, or whatever case may be, when AI eventually gets to the point where the labor of humans is obsolete. It can replace all the jobs. It can harvest information faster than we can, or whatever case may be. I think a good analogy or a good reflection of that would probably be like the movie Planet of the Apes. You see what I'm saying? The old Charleston Heston version of Planet of the Apes. The AI thing might turn out something like that. It might turn out something like the Planet of the Apes. It might turn out something like, the Berlin Conference of 1884, something like that. It's gonna mirror. I think it might mirror those type of scenarios like that. Um, Except for the humans are with the humans on the raw end of the stick, if you know what I mean. So just kind of, I don't know, throwing that out there. When we look at a lot of these current events or whatever case may be, before we just accept the explanation that's kind of given, or whatever case may be, I always go back a couple years, examine when was the last time something similar like this happened, or whatever, and what was the outcome, or whatever case may be. When were the circumstances similar to this in society, or whatever case may be, and what happened in that? How you see what I'm saying? What group operated similar to the politics of this particular group in society? And a lot of times when you compare history from that perspective, instead of just kind of like taking everything at face value. Because for my young people, you know what I'm saying, for my young guys, you know, a lot of this stuff was inherited. We inherited this world. We inherited the schemes that are at play in this world, or whatever case may be. History is important. You see what I'm saying? Understanding like the things that happened prior to when you were born, so you know what you're inheriting, what you're walking into. Because the people being born around this time, um, it's an interesting time to be born and everything like that. It's a lot of fringe notions in society. It's a lot of revolution in society. This is, Pluto and Aquarius and everything astrologically or whatever. So it's a lot going on in society. So, yeah, but just kind of wanted to touch on that. Um, yeah, analyze this stuff and be mindful of patterns and things, and paying attention to similarities and things across a global scale and everything like that. Um, Being mindful of the last time certain situations might have taken place, the circumstances and everything like that. So you kind of get an idea, so you don't be naive to certain situations that may be going on in front of your face or whatever case may be. I think astrologically, this era that we're living in right now may be very similar to the 60s, as well as maybe very similar to pre-World War II era. And I think we're gonna be dealing with that Saturn and Aries. I think that's like last time that happened. That is it's normally a lot of assassinations happening during that time. I think recently you had the 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 shooting of the Israeli ambassadors. I think you had the UK Prime Minister's car blown up. I mean, it's just different stuff that's recently happened or whatever case may be. But yeah, that season is kind of upon us again. So it's probably going to be more stuff like that happening or whatever. But that's really all I had. But y'all check into that, man. Y'all go into go on some of your alternative media sites and go back and revisit 2021. Look up the documentary called "Died Suddenly." You see what I'm saying? The embalmers talk about what they found in dead bodies after certain things were administered to the populace. They talk about look up the xenobot. You see what I'm saying? The living robot that grows inside of you. They created it from the stem cells of an African frog and stuff like that. It's a living robot that grows inside of you and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? And cross reference what I'm saying with that documentary Died Suddenly, and what the embalmers were finding inside of people that were growing inside of them from the metals and things in their bodies or whatever case may be. I mean, I'll let you do the homework. Look up the soccer players and people that collapsed on the field and stuff like that. Research that stuff or whatever case may be. Things that happened in 2021, and research that VA, like Virginia, um, IDs. You see what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? Um, you know, Taxine with a V induced acquired something deficiency syndrome, if you understand what I'm saying. So check that out, because that's not something new. That's something people have been talking about. You see what I'm saying? They've been talking about that. They've been talking about the shedding. They've been talking about a lot of stuff or whatever case may be. It's just like that elephant in the room or whatever. But sometimes you have to go on alternative platforms to kind of get that. I'm talking kind of coded right now and not really going in much detail, to kind of like skim the surface just so we can kind of have this dialogue on this platform. But um, you do your own research or whatever case may be. But me personally, my humble opinion, I think that's a large part of this great, large HIV epidemic that's kind of been striking the country as of recently. Like what you've been hearing, like and subscribe. Peace.